Welcome back. This is the first edition of Up, the Coach Parry Comrades Marathon Podcast, heading towards Comrades 2026. We made the flick this week. We are going up in 2026. My name is Brad Nadauld. We've got the coach with us once again. Lindsey, nice to touch base. I see that route profile. Man, it was bad running down. It's even worse going up.
Yeah, so I know there were a lot of people that commented that it felt like all they did was run up all day long. Well, stick around, run the up, then you'll know what it's like to run up all day long.
Yeah. All right, cool. Coming up in today's podcast, we are going to be talking about how to run your best comrades in 2026 and what you can do from now to do that. We're also going to be talking about some of the feedback that has been going around with regards to comrades and the changes that were made in 2025 and the best way to actually effect change as a comrades runner. We're going to give you some info and details on that. And then also looking at sort of who can actually run comrades. And we want to make a huge drive to getting more women running in 2026. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Before we jump into any of that, Linz, I'm itching to start again. Can we start running again?
So we had 2 weeks. So for the people, as I've often said in the past, I try to ignore my comrades clients for a while until they start getting shrill and demanding that I let them run again. So yeah, look, you can get going this week. I prefer a third week, but really, as long as you don't try and get into hard training, I think that's important to note. Is that this week, just getting back into a habit in South Africa and in particular in Johannesburg, I feel like it's quite easy to take another week. It's pretty cold, it's pretty dark. So 3 weeks is a good number, but yeah, get going slowly. Effectively from the 29th of June, that's the right time to start training, to get your consistency going again, to get your routine going again, but still not training hard. We don't throw ourselves straight into training hard. We need to build up again and get ourselves back to the volumes that we were at.
So an easy training marathon on Saturday is not a good idea. Is that what you're telling me, Lindsey?
No, or as I heard one reporter breaking some ASA news, calling it a cross-country marathon. So none of that stuff.
We'll keep that away. All right, Linz, before we talk about sort of how to run our best comrades in 2026, let's talk a little bit about the feedback. There's obviously been lots of feedback and on the podcast, just so that everybody knows as well, what we're going to be doing in the next sort of few months here on Up is we're not going to have Lindsey on every single week, but we're going to get some of the role players around comrades, some athletes who have had quite a bit of interest or people following them in the build-up to 2025 to see how their comrades went. But there's been lots of debate and criticism as well on various platforms, Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, about some of the changes that Comrades made in 2025. And it's all good and well as Comrades runners are shouting our mouths off in these different platforms, but there is actually a way for us to effect change with the race. Comrades doesn't belong to one entity or one person. It belongs to all of us, and we can all be stakeholders in this race, and we can all make a difference. And we've been chatting to a couple of the board members, both on and off air here, and I think the consensus is that if we love comrades and we want to be part of this race, we all need to stand up and be counted, and there is a way to do that. Linz, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. So I think the quickest and easiest step is to become a member of the Comrades Marathon Association. It is actually an exclusive club, Brad, because you can't join it unless you've done Comrades. You need an actual Comrades number to be able to join. So yeah, we'll pop a link into this so that people can click on that link. You can go, you then apply and pay your money, and they will then and it's 100 Rand, Brad. So I think that's the important thing to know, is that it's really not a lot of money, and there's a lot of plans up in the air for what members will get. So it used to be you join membership, that gives you the ability to drive to the AGM in Pietermaritzburg and vote. But there's a lot of, I don't want to go into any details because nothing's finalized, but there are going to be like special events that are going to be held for members. Members are going to get special access and exclusive access to certain things behind the scenes. So it's going to really be worthwhile being a member. And then I think the critical thing, to your point, Brad, is that as a member, you get a say in what happens in the race. And how do you get your say? Well, you get to come to the AGM, you get to raise points at the AGM, you get to debate points at the AGM, and then you get to vote on proposals that have been put forward. You get to vote in board board members, and you get this say in who gets to lead this race going forward. And so I think those are all very important reasons for runners to stop moaning on Facebook, because personally, so tired of moaning on Facebook. Stop moaning, sign up at Comrades, come and have your say in a constructive way, offer your expertise if you have any. Let's get the spirit of volunteerism, which is huge at Comrades, by the way. I mean, the race just doesn't happen with the sheer number of volunteers that are involved. So, yeah, stop moaning and start acting.
Yeah, Lindsey, and I think in the past as well, one of the reasons people were hesitant to sort of become a member of the Comrades Marathon Association and to vote is you had to actually physically be in Pietermaritzburg for the AGMs and that sort of stuff to be part of it. But obviously, with everything that's gone down in the last year, with voting at the special general meeting and the AGM that's coming up now as well, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I'm pretty sure you will be able to attend virtually. I know Comrades are big on including as many people as they can, particularly also international runners, the ambassadors, all of that sort of stuff. So we really want to urge you, if you aren't a member of the Comrades Marathon Association, and I'll put my hand up, I haven't been, but I am joining for this exact reason, because I don't think it is fair to be moaning about things at a race and not actually being part of the solution. So instead of being part of the problem, let's be part of the solution. I think that's enough said. Make sure you click on the link. It's in the description.
Last point. Last point, if you want to say in 2026, you need to sign up before the 30th of June. Okay. So eligible to vote in the AGM, you need to be registered by the 30th of June.
Yeah. So the link is in the description of both the video if you're watching this or if you're listening on whatever podcast player. It's $100 for the year. Go and do it. Just do the right thing and do it. So that's the first bit. Linz, the second one is obviously trying to get more women to run Comrades. And this, I know Comrades have a big drive, and this is one of the things that they really do want to focus on. Let's talk about some of the challenges, because I think that is probably part of why the numbers of female runners are so low at a race like Comrades. If you look at like the spa races and the total sport races, the shorter distances, the numbers are pretty representative of the population. Whereas the longer you go, it becomes less and less. What are some of the reasons, and what can we do as male runners in running clubs to help facilitate and make it easier for women to run a race like Comrades?
So I think the two biggest issues really are time availability to train. So whether a female is a full-time professional or not, they still have a large, I don't want to call it a burden, maybe the larger responsibility, or they carry the bigger weight in terms of running the house and the children and that sort of thing. So that's a big reason. And then pure safety. I mean, and that's across the board. Obviously, because of in South Africa locally, spatial planning, etc., means that some are even less safe than others. But safety is a huge concern. And so I think those are the two biggest reasons why it's much harder for females to prepare for and therefore run Comrades. So yeah, to your point, I think if clubs can get more organized, and specifically the males in clubs can get more organized to actually get running groups together, so that we can remove that safety element, and then at home, let's be more open to helping out and helping each other out to create the time and space that both of you need to prepare and train and be successful at completing Comrades.
Yeah, Lindsey, if I can just give my example personally, and this isn't yay, Brad, he's doing such a great job, but my wife's a runner as well, and she ran her first ultra marathon in the build up to Comrades this year. She's saying she doesn't have ambitions for Comrades, but I don't believe her. I think there probably are ambitions for Comrades down the line. But one of the challenges that we've got kids, so somebody has to be at home with the kids when the other one is running. And like for me, from a safety perspective, I'm much happier me running on my own than her running on her own. So I've just gone, you know what, I'm not doing club runs. She can do the club runs. I'll stay at home with the kids when the club runs on, and I'll go do my long runs on my own. And then she'll come along in second and help out. And if I need to second on those club runs, the kids come with and that sort of thing. But that's just one of the ways that we've done it in our household, and it seems to be working. So, but everybody has to step up to the plate. I think that is important. It's running, particularly long as you go longer, can become very selfish. And we're all in this together. I mean, if you have kids, you part of it. You have to flip and carry your weight. So yeah, we're going to be talking lots more about that and what we can do and how we can help in the build up to 2026. But Lindsey, let's talk about running our best comrades. And I think once you sort of look back, and last week we did the debrief on my comrades, and I think it's human nature to go, okay, cool, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? How do I get faster? That sort of thing. What are some like we've spoken about, like what is the biggest lever to improving your comrades' time next year?
Yeah. So look, once you get into doing multiple comrades, then the thing that makes the biggest movement is training all year round. So that doesn't mean we're training for comrades all year round, but it means we are staying fit and active all year round, so that we don't wake up in January, oh, it's comrade season, and then we build up and get our fitness into a place where we can train for comrades properly, March until race day. If we can maintain a really good level throughout the whole year, then when you come to training for comrades next year, you're going to be at a much higher level, and then you kick up from that point. And that's how on a year-on-year basis you can really start seeing like proper gains. So your first lever always to pull is getting on the right training plan, training properly, being consistent. Your second lever that then pulls is making sure that that's a consistency that you look after all year round.
Yeah, Lindsey, I wanted to just touch on consistency, because that is like, I don't think people understand the sort of major impact that consistency has. It's not one big training run or one big week of training. Even you talk about the January to comrades. It's little bits over a prolonged period of time that add up and compound and just really make all the difference.
Yeah, especially for Brad, more than half the field finished after 10 hours. And yes, I should have gone and read it before we recorded this, because it's such a powerful stat. But it was crazy. There was like, I think 4,000 runners finished in the last hour. So 25% of the field finished in the last hour, and something crazy like 2,000, over 2,000 of those finished in the last 10 minutes. But and I'm saying that because that's the majority of the field aren't there trying to run a Silva, a Bill Rowan, a Robert Machali. The majority of the field just want to finish comrades, and your biggest weapon to finishing comrades is that little consistency that you're talking about, small amounts all the time. I promise you, if you run between 30 and 50 Ks a week from pretty much now until comrades race day, you are going to be so far ahead of the curve in terms of that, those finishers that are finishing between 11 and 12 hours. Yeah, I just can't stress enough that the consistent little bits often is the recipe for comrades. It's about being able to keep going at actually quite a low intensity for a really long period of time. That's what comrades is about.
Yeah, Lindsey, I mean, I put that is the key to my success this year. That is why I finished comrades, is just because I didn't do massive amounts of mileage. It was just week after week, showing up 4 runs a week, turning those blocks green, and that's what made the difference. But you mentioned training all year round, and one of the dangers with training all year round for comrades is the mental fatigue of having this thing over your head the whole time. And one of the things that I did differently this year too, and it wasn't just this year, it was in the build up to getting to this year, is I just focused on the next thing. And it just made such a big difference, Linz. Like I knew I needed to run Cape Town Marathon in order to qualify, and then I was going to go and do this, and then I was going to do that. But I didn't even worry about the rest of the stuff, because if I didn't get this, what I was training for now, out of the way, the rest of the stuff didn't matter. And then building up to Cape Town Marathon last year, I ran a half marathon here in Cape Town called the Cape Town Festival of Running, which is in July. But prior to that, it was Cape Town Marathon the year before, and it was just this slow build-up of little blocks, like almost like building Legos, where it's like I focus on the next 12 weeks, and if I get through that, then I'll worry about the next one. I didn't worry about the rest. So the big plan is Comrades 2026, but how do we break that down so that we're not just focused on that the whole time, and that we're able to not burn out in the build-up to it? If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury-free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsey and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
100%. So now let's talk. We always have to split this up, because now we're talking about people who want to run their first Comrades, but we're also talking about people that have run Comrades, and we talk about how you improve. So for people who want to run their first Comrades, it very much depends on where your experience lives as a runner. Okay. So if you watched Comrades this year, you haven't run for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, but you're a South African and you have always loved the Comrades. You used to maybe watch it as a kid, or you've grown up on the side of the road. You supported someone this year and you've been inspired. So, but now you haven't run for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. I mean, we get these are the crazy things that Comrades pulls people out of. Then you're going to walk a very different road, and you're going to set different milestones. Your first milestone is going to be getting to your first park run, and you put that 6, 8, 10 weeks into the future. Once you've achieved that goal, your next goal will be a 10K, next goal will be a half marathon, next goal will be a marathon, and hopefully in a qualifying time. So you've kind of got to sit down and stretch that out. And in that scenario, someone who's just starting out, you're probably only looking at qualifying for Comrades next year, January, February, March. Okay. So that's quite a different sort of road to travel, but we have those, and we will also focus on those as we go through this up series, so that we can help those. Then you're going to get people who never run Comrades, but they are experienced runners. They're either half marathoners or they've done marathons. So they're fine, they've got this, and they'll walk a very similar path to this runner who's done Comrades and now wants to go, hey, I want to improve. I don't want to do an 11:59:59 next year. I want to at least be at an 11:45. What are the things that I've got to do to make that happen? And that will be, let's recover from Comrades. We're nearing the end of that, and then we're going to set some goals. Okay, so that means that kind of getting towards the end of winter, moving into the early spring. If you're in South Africa, if you're in the northern hemisphere, other way around, moving into early autumn. But in that, you'll go, hey, as part of my stepping stone to the marathon at the end of the year, I think I'm going to work towards a half marathon and get a good half marathon, which will help build my confidence and help me work into running a faster marathon. And then somewhere around October, November, December at the latest, I'm training for a marathon, so that I can do a good qualifier for Comrades and know that I've got my seeding and all of that stress out of the way and in the bag. And then I'm going to take another break, because again, we want to be consistent and we want to train all year round. But part of doing that is allowing ourselves these mental and physical holidays so that our bodies can recover. And then we will start training again, and we'll set some short-term goals. So early January, February, especially if we have qualified already, we're happy with our qualifier, no marathon in February. What a pleasure. So good for your body not to be doing a marathon so early next year. So if we need to, we need to. But if we don't need to, amazing. We can lay a foundation, work towards a half marathon, work on something specific, work on a weakness in our game, focus on strength training. There's just a lot of things that we can do to just carry on with this theme of focusing in the short term. Maybe it's training for a triathlon, like really good general preparation for the body and mind, and very different to running. And then we get into late February, boom, we're now training for March. And then we are in this point where, hey, now we're training for Comrades. So that focus then starts from March. And that's just a really good way of looking at the whole year and breaking it down. And if we don't have to race a hard marathon next year, geez, it opens up a lot of possibilities for you around maybe a two oceans or a Normandy Dam or something like that you might want to run a little bit harder as a once-off. But really, we push the really long, damaging, mentally tiring, etc. runs into March. One in March, one in April, one in May, and then Comrades.
Linz, let me ask this question, because this build up to Comrades 2025 was the first time I've actually run a marathon, a qualifying marathon, the previous year. And it was such a lacquer feeling not having to stress about, I have to run a marathon here. So it's not that long until, and I'm going to use Cape Town Marathon as an example, but there are other marathons up north, or where if you're planning on running a New York as an example, or possibly a Chicago. If you ran Comrades this year, what's the best way to approach a marathon that's so soon after Comrades as a qualifier? Because obviously you want to try and run it to the best of your ability. You've mentioned at the start of this podcast how much time we should be taking off. Do we just dive straight into a 12-week training block, marathon training, or what's the best way to go about that?
No, so that's why north of October is the right time for the marathon. So because it just buys you that little bit of time to get going again, to reestablish your foundation, and then to start training hard 12 weeks out from race day. So I'm doing Berlin this year, 21st of September. So if you've run Comrades, that's very quick. That means next week, the week after, you are back in full training. And that's just too quick. And you just run the risk of both being mentally flat, physically flat, and or getting injured. But October onwards is good, because October onwards gives you 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to just reestablish that platform, get back in your groove, get your legs back, get your mojo back, and then you start training hard. So I would almost say, looking at the calendar, that Cape Town / Chicago, if we're talking international and versus local, those are kind of the earliest, and then everything from then onwards fits in quite well, actually, with having done Comrades this year.
As far as the focusing on other things, you mentioned like triathlon, possibly, maybe we want to do a cross-country marathon later on in the year, who knows? But what's the best way to go about that? Like, is this the time to get faster? Is this the time to build aerobic base, or is it just like what should the focus be on?
Right now is reestablishing that aerobic base. It'll be pretty good after having just done Comrades. But if you throw yourself straight into trying to get fast over the short stuff, that's your very high risk of injury, because your muscles, they 100% won't be fully recovered yet. So that reestablishing the base is part of actively finishing off that recovery. Look, you could flip it around and say, no, I'd rather run a marathon early next year, because I really do want to work on my basic speed, etc. But then your timelines would be similar to what I spoke about around the marathon. You would still take between 4 and 6 weeks to really just get that aerobic base platform back, gradually reintroducing higher intensity workouts in, and then you'd spend 10 to 16 weeks, if you wanted to, working towards a 10 or 21K race. And then you'd move in, and through the December holidays, if you are one of those people that's got lots of time to train, then you would train through December and do if you're going to do a hard marathon next year, in the lead up to Comrades, then the end of February should be seen as the latest opportunity, not the ideal opportunity. So then you probably want to look towards the end of January, early February, because then you can race hard, give yourself a small recovery window, and then you can move into training for Comrades.
For someone, obviously the consistency you've spoken about, the training all year round is going to be one of the biggest levers. But we've spoken about this lots on this podcast, that speed isn't the limiting factor at Comrades. I mean, in order to run a bull row, you've got to run at 6 minutes K. The vast majority of the Comrades field can run a 6 minute K. They just can't do it for 9 hours. So for someone like me, or that large percentage of the field that finished in the last hour, in order to get faster at Comrades, you do need a little bit of speed. Would it be better to train for that marathon in October? Or would it be better to go, you know what, I'm going to try and run a faster 10K or a faster half marathon, maybe October, November, and we'll push the marathon qualifier to early next year?
No, it's better for those people to qualify this year and have that qualifier in the bag, because the marathon takes so much out of you. You can work on that speed in January and February next year, because a 10 or 21 takes so little out of you compared to a marathon. So I do it the other way around. One of the other things that training for a marathon affords you is the opportunity to work on the strength training. So that is something, now I'm talking to Brad, and through Brad, I'm talking to everyone listening. That is an area where you could make a huge difference to both your marathon and your Comrades next year, if you do that. And I think if you try and combine really working hard on strength with trying to work really hard on your speed, it's not that they're competing, but they are competing for resources. So you're just going to be sore all the time. And when you sore all the time, you risk hurting yourself.
Okay, so just to get this straight for clarity, I need to do strength training. Is that what you're saying?
You do. Yeah.
Okay. There we have it.
MED. MED, bro.
Minimum effective dose.
MED. It's my new thing. Med.
For someone who doesn't know what minimum effective dose is, please explain.
Take your meds, bro. Take your meds. That is the minimum effective dose that you need to have for the strength training to be effective. And so what we all do is we get into the gym the first time, and we get in there and we do as much as we can. And then we need help getting in and out of the car, and we need help brushing our teeth at night and in the morning. And that's not the way to do strength training. We don't want to feel sore all the time. So start with body weight exercises, start with 4 to 6 reps. And if you do a training session and then 2 days later you felt no effects of the strength, then you are under the minimum effective dose and you can push a little bit harder. But that's better than going too hard and then having to pull back. So that's what I mean by taking your meds.
Yeah, Lindsey, it's interesting that, I mean, I think a lot of us approach our running that way, that we start slowly and it's build up slowly, but we don't do the same with our strength. And that's pretty much what you're saying, is because that's what I found is, like, I do a strength session, and because my strength is so poor, I'm like so sore for like 3-4 days afterwards that I don't really want to do it again because it's impacting my running. And basically what you're saying is just dial it back a notch or two so that it doesn't hurt you, so that you're getting the benefits without the pain, like we would without running, and then slowly build up as you go there. So I am going to take that to heart, and I'm going to try my bestest to do strength training. But I think that is probably one of the areas where I let myself down, is not doing the strength, but because I was so sore and I didn't want it to impact my running. So I am committing to doing minimum effective dose strength training in the build up to Cape Town 2025. That is my plan. Hopefully we'll drag a few people along with us. But Lindsey, as always, great to catch up. We'll catch up with you again in 3 or 4 weeks' time, just to sort of touch base where we are training-wise, what we need to focus on. In the meantime, this podcast will be coming out every single week. We've got some great guests lined up. If you do need help with your training, if you've got any questions, the Coach Parry app is where you need to go to. I'll pop the link into the description as well. You can sign up. You can get access to Lindsey and the rest of our coaches on a daily basis if you need, to make sure that you do hit your goals in the build-up to Comrades 2026. As always, Coach, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to catching up again soon.
Yeah, brilliant, and good luck, everybody. We are, as my great friend Kirsten likes to say, it's never too early to panic.
Excellent. Thanks, Kirsten, and thanks, Coach. We'll chat soon.